What I love about the local watersheds is that they have salmon and trout, and the bigger ones like the Fraser have sturgeon. And so my background is as a fisheries biologist and as an angler. I grew up in the Eastern Fraser Valley as an angler. You know, I've always been fascinated by water, by fish, and the Lower Mainland historically pre-European would have been just this vast network of streams and wetlands, small lakes, and there's some big lakes too. So I just sort of love fish, love the surrounding atmosphere. My name is Marvin Rosenau, and I'm an instructor at BCIT, British Columbia Institute of Technology, and I work in the Fish, Wildlife and Recreation program, and to a certain degree in the Ecological Restoration program as well. The ecology of this little salmon and trout stream is really tied to the vegetation along the perimeter. And so streams, particularly salmonid streams, but streams in general around the world, are really productive because of the vegetation, the plants along the edge. Plants provide shade, so allows for water to be cool, stabilizes the banks, so the banks don't all erode, and silt, which is usually deleterious to fish and insect life, and algal life is not entrained into the stream. Plants not only provide shade and provide cooling, but they also provide leaf litter. So as an example, a leaf like this will eventually fall down, and it may enter the stream, and then little insects will come along and chew this leaf. And so this is known as allochthonous material. And so as opposed to the algae that grows on rocks, so different insects actually scrape algae off rocks, and so that's autochthonous. And so fish feed on those insects, and so plants are really important for providing food and nutrients. Even if this plant doesn't go into the stream, when it falls onto the ground during the autumn, the leaf will decay, and then the nutrients will seep into the watercourse, and that will allow for algae and other microorganisms, bacteria and that, which are part of the food chain, the lower trophic levels, to be able to thrive. Plants are important because in an urban environment like this, they're able to trap bad things before they get into the watercourses. So things like oil drippings from your car, pesticides from your lawn, and in some streams in the Pacific Northwest, we find that rubber tires, the tiny little bits of particles from the tires that come off the tire when you drive on the road, the plants help trap these before they get into the watercourse, and so that's important as well.
My name is Kanya, and I am the Natural Area Supervisor for City of Coquitlam in the Urban Forestry Department. So my team deals with trail maintenance and also restoring natural areas, so invasive species removal as well as planting. So invasive species have a number of harmful impacts to our natural areas, but the primary one would be the fact that they really overtake our natural areas completely. So they'll suffocate our native plants, they take up valuable habitat space, they outcompete native species, and what that results in is a lack of food for our native wildlife, insects, and our entire food chain. The Bad Seed program is City of Coquitlam's volunteer, community-facing invasive plant management program. We do a lot of different events and workshops where we teach people how to identify invasive plants, how to remove invasive plants, and we also do planting events. So after we've pulled out all those weeds, we'll bring people in to plant native plants and help restore that habitat. So you can get involved at coquitlam.ca/badseed, sign up to be a volunteer, come out and learn more about invasive plants, and it's quite rewarding and fun to remove them. So it's a good way to meet like-minded folks as well in the community. Our Himalayan blackberry, which is one of the more common species that you'll see throughout the Lower Mainland and beyond. You can see it forms quite a dense thicket and can quickly cover and take up habitat space, resulting in lower biodiversity in these areas. These large canes will come up and out. They can be quite tall, as you can kind of see as we look back. They'll really cover a large area. We have these pretty... You can see here they're quite spiky, and on our more mature plants you'll see they have a bit of a reddish stem as well. Folks love to eat blackberries, and they are quite tasty, so we do see them planted for food in some locations. As you can see, they can form quite a lot of berries and again spread quite effectively with those berries. They have white and pinkish flowers, which are quite pretty and quite distinctive as well.
Hi, I'm Marianne. I'm with the City of Coquitlam's Natural Areas Department. I'm the lead hand forest management, which means I look after our forest management crew to do habitat restoration work throughout the city. If you have a large patch like this, you can use mechanical equipment. So if you have a line trimmer or a hedge trimmer, you can just cut them down. Otherwise, if it's a smaller, more manageable patch, or if you don't have any equipment, then you can definitely just use a pair of snips or loppers. So what you would want to do is remove some of this vegetation until you can get to a crown. And again, you want to make sure to get out all the roots. So you would just look for where the stem meets the soil, dig under it. So a little bit of a lever up, and what you want to do is get these roots out. So the bigger the stem, the thicker the root crown will be, is what this guy is called. And they actually do get quite big. The bigger that they are, they kind of look like a potato. But also important that you get all of these sort of lateral roots out here. And you just might want to make sure that you dig out that whole entire crown. Okay, and then our next invasive plant here is English ivy. There's actually another kind as well called Irish ivy. They were both brought in from Europe, but they look very similar, very hard to distinguish, and they act as similarly as an invasive, so we treat them all as just ivies. And this one too is often still found in garden centers because it's a great climbing vine. However, the bad thing about that is that it can also grow up trees, as it is doing on here. And what you can find often is that the ivy roots will get so thick, and they can actually add a lot of weight to the tree, as well as preventing air transfer, and it will also compete with nutrients and water. And so they can kill trees if allowed to grow. So a distinguishing feature of it here are the green leaves with the points. So this is what it looks like when it's immature. They do have a little slightly different form when they're more mature. Their leaves actually lose the lobes, and they get a lot more egg-shaped, as you'll see here, a lot more rounded. So if you're removing ivy up a tree, one way to do so is something called a lifesaver ring. And so basically what you would do is cut all the ivy at about chest height all the way around the tree. You want to get in, cut the stem all the way around the tree. Try to avoid damaging the bark of the tree. You might need to pull off. They've got good grip, like so. And from there you want to try and pull down all the ivy from chest height down and away, completely away from the base of the tree. And so you don't actually have to remove any of the ivy that's growing up any further. For one, it can be hazardous, so pulling things off can, get into your eyes or things like that. And it will actually just die off anyways.
So here we have a Scotch broom plant, a pretty distinctive invasive plant. As you can see, they grow quite large, our mature plants, and they spread via seed. So a mature plant like this could produce over 10,000 seeds, and they actually stay viable in the soil for 30 to 40 years. So they can continue to come back, and it's really important to try and remove them when they're flowering, so before they go to seed. This one unfortunately has already gone to seed, so you can kind of see we've got these pods here, which are another really distinctive feature of the Scotch broom plant. And again, they can grow quite large, but we do see really small ones as well. So there's different ways to remove this plant. So you can see this is a smaller Scotch broom plant, so one that we might be able to actually cut today. Again, we would typically cut them when they're flowering, not while they're already fully seeded. So you'd want to go as close as you can to the base of the plant. So you can see it's been cut. Another important thing about Scotch broom is they have a really high oil content, so they can be quite flammable, especially when they're drying out. Very important not to leave these ones on site to prevent a risk of fire. So this will be removed and taken to the transfer station to be composted. So there's a lot that Coquitlam residents, business owners, anyone in the area can do to prevent the spread of invasive plants. The number one thing is to make responsible choices with your gardening and landscaping. So choose plants that are not invasive. There are a lot of great resources online. You can visit coquitlam.ca/badseed to learn more about different alternative plantings, but certainly choosing plants that are native, and if they're non-native, selecting ones that are non-invasive. So there are many ornamental plants that are quite beautiful, but that will not invade our ecosystems. The other thing that you can do is participate in a weed pool or a volunteer event. So the City of Coquitlam and many other organizations in the Lower Mainland will actually host these events for folks to come out and learn more about how to identify invasive species and how to appropriately remove them.